again, getting a little groggy. He may be starting to fall there, but police have prepared very well for this. They've laid out lots of padding below this branch to make sure it's a safe fall. And oh, there he goes. It looks like he's climbing higher up into the tree. So certainly police are keeping an eye on this and see what he's doing there. He seemed to have been sedated for a while, and now a lot more activity.
Well, you have to imagine how scared the bear is.
Yeah.
For a bear, he's in a bizarre environment. He's got all of the helicopters up above him right now and all of the people down on the ground looking up at him. So he's probably more scared than the people are.
And just in the last minute or two, if you've been watching with us live here, he has gone slightly higher up in that tree. So my best guess would be maybe 50 to 60 feet up in the air.
And Stephen, some of our earlier shots of the bear, we were able to get a closer look, and we saw that he had some sort of tag in his ear. Obviously, there are a lot of woods in the area surrounding this neighborhood. Have wildlife police given you any indication if they were tracking this bear prior or why they were perhaps monitoring their paths through the area?
Yeah, we saw the tag just like you guys did. It's hard to deduce much from that, other than this bear has clearly had some sort of contact with wildlife officials in the past.
Steve, you made a good point there earlier about, this bear, he's a big guy, but he's moving pretty quickly. So it took a lot of time for police to catch up with them. I know we heard earlier they were saying as soon as they would get to one location where the bear was reported to be, he had already moved on. So he'd traversed several yards and streets there in Arlington, making his way up to this tree where he's been for the last 2 hours. And in our earlier pictures, we were seeing even before the tranquilizer was used, he looked pretty tired up there. He's probably disoriented, far away from his natural habitat, and now he's got all of this activity around him. The helicopters, the police, the people there watching. This isn't something you see every day in backyards in Arlington, so a lot of interest surrounding this bear all the way up in the tree. And again, police want to make sure that they get him safely down and relocated into a wooded area away from all of these houses and families.
Steve, you're down there. You're on the ground. There are people all around. What are the neighbors saying? I'm sure some of them think it's pretty cool to see this bear up in a tree and to have a bear in their neighborhood. Obviously, some of them were concerned, but now that it seems like police are at least there on the scene, so they're relatively safe, what are the neighbors telling you?
It's safe to say it's been a more exciting Friday morning than I think anyone in this neighborhood was expecting to have. A lot of neighbors, honestly, are just coming out here. We've seen people coming out with, nice, fancy, expensive cameras.
Steve, you mentioned he's come down a little bit, about 10 feet. Wouldn't it be ideal if he got hit by these tranquilizers and instead of having to make this fall, he came down on his own? Perfect world. That would be ideal, of course, but firefighters and environmental police are prepared for him to fall. They've got the padding laid out. Steve, have you been able to get a look at what kind of padding that is, how thick it is, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we were sort of moved off the street that we had been camped out on for about an hour pretty quickly. But right before we left, firefighters were just starting to lay down. It was like black cushioned padding. It almost looked like something that you'd find in a high school gymnasium, for practice of some kind or wrestling or something like that. It was honestly several inches thick. It looked pretty sturdy, and that's what they were laying down in at least some spots. Obviously, I'm only seeing a vantage point that showed me one backyard. I did not see what, if anything, they're laying down in adjacent backyards. I know sometimes they use nets or blankets, and they have different ways of cushioning these falls, but the one piece that I saw was essentially black cushioned padding that was being laid down. I assume that they have a bunch of that they've laid out, but unfortunately we were cleared out of the area because they were preparing to fire that first tranquilizer dart, so they wanted everybody out of there, to ensure everyone in this area's safety and the bear's safety.
All right, so
and this wasn't the first option, obviously. They were really, really hoping that they could coax the bear down. I don't know how you would coax a bear down, but maybe that the bear would decide to come down on its own. It really seemed like they waited as long as they could before they had to decide to shoot those tranquilizer darts, because they really don't want to put this bear at risk by taking such a big fall, Steve.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to contradict you, Chris, because I don't know this for sure. I'm not sure they were waiting for the bear to come down on its own. I do know the more populated area, the more dangerous it is for them to wait for a bear to come down out of the tree, because once it comes at... And there was a little exclamation from the folks around me, sorry, because that bear just made a little bit of a move up. Yeah, he's sliding just a bit. I'm gonna be quiet as we let this play out.
Yeah, so Steve's there. I mean, they can't hear our voices through this, but Steve wants to keep quiet there because they're really focused on the bear's safety, and not only that, but the bear, even if it does fall, and it's okay, which everybody hopes the bear is okay, you still have a big black bear that could then jump up and run or whatnot. So
Right.
they have law enforcement and environmental police there trying to keep everybody back to make sure that the bear has plenty of room if it does hit the ground and is okay, which is the hope that it doesn't then just take off or run toward anybody, because that's still, you know, a live bear.
It is, and you're watching now, it's kind of coming slowly down this tree a little bit further, which is ideal. The shorter amount of time it has to fall, the shorter amount of distance it has to fall, the better. It looks like it's coming down a little bit at a time. It's been hit by 2 tranquilizers, so it's probably pretty groggy at this point. It's sliding down. You see that's the roof of a house. Steve was mentioning this tree is at the corner of about 4 different backyards there. It's a residential area. As we're watching this closely, these live pictures of the bear slowly coming down, making its way down that tree. It's about 50, 60 feet high at one point. So this is kind of an ideal situation we're watching play out as this bear gets closer and closer to the ground, to the area where environmental police and firefighters have set out. They're prepared for him to land, or they're prepared for him to come down on his own. So again, this is ideal if he gets lower and lower to the ground here.
Yeah, you want to minimize whatever fall this bear has to take and the impact. They did whatever they can do on the ground to try and cushion the landing the best they can, but obviously just the law of physics, the lower he is, the shorter the distance he has to fall probably reduces the risk of injury to the bear.